All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected and all the listeners are smarter than the average bear. What's going on, guys? Victory Jen on Twitter. Give me a shout out on Twitter. Thanks, Victory Jen. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. We got people listening on Twitter. And thank you for tuning in on Twitter. If you're listening on Twitter, you know what to do. Give the retweets, the likes. What's up, people? How you doing? Gigabane, Lone Wanderer, what's up? Deline. Good to see y'all. Rockfinners, you reporting in? We got William. We got, I don't know. Where are the Rockfinners at? Everybody's on Twitter or YouTube. Why is Twitter so special? I don't know. I don't know that it's special. I don't know. I kind of like that people are watching on Twitter. I have a really difficult time getting any visibility on Twitter because I am super shadow banned, and that's a real thing. So it's trying to getting people to watch on Twitter and getting some visibility there, getting a little bit of traffic to my Twitter page. I appreciate it. It's kind of new and exciting. By the way, I have my Rumble page set up again. However, I can only, with the plan I'm subscribed to now on StreamYard, I can only stream to 3 places. So in order to stream to another place, I have to upgrade. And I'm, bottom of the barrel in the bank account right now. So as soon as I can get money to upgrade my my StreamYard account, then I could stream to Rumble as well. I don't know. Does anybody care about Rumble? Does anybody want to watch me on Rumble? I feel like not that many people were watching me on Rumble before. So there was that. I don't know. Do you guys care about Rumble? Would it be a better place to watch the show? Friends and neighbors? Let me know. Let me know so I can hook it up. I guess I could stream. There's other places to stream too. I think that my Odyssey, there's an Odyssey account. I think you can watch Black Bear News on Odyssey. They automatically upload a reaction video to Paul Beckwith and Guy and so on. Actually, that could be kind of fun. I mean, sure. I mostly agree with Guy McPherson, and I mostly agree with Paul Beckwith. I think sometimes we did briefly, or not so briefly, talk about some geoengineering a few weeks back, right? And people were suggesting I watch The Dimming. I was saying that I wasn't necessarily a fan of Paul Beckwith's take on geoengineering, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. But that would be an interesting one to do a watch along with. I don't know. Certainly James Hansen has backup now. Yeah, I mean, I did a watch along with, I forget his name now, right? A few weeks ago. That was kind of fun. I think you all enjoyed that, right? I don't know. I might pick out some videos to watch along with. Nuclear energy kingpin Exelon CEO Chris Crane is dead at 65 years old. Guy McPherson, but he's just some guy. I mean, he's pretty influential. I mean, I don't know. I've had Guy on the show back in the day. But as he at one point he said, I don't know, there's nothing really new to add to the science. By his own admission, he's been wrong for over 20 years. He admitted to being wrong about what? Like when things would fall apart? To the abruptness of the abrupt climate change? Is that what you mean? You have to be a subscriber to comment? What? No. Get it. That sucks. You have to be... No, that's not... You can comment and not be... You're not a subscriber to Rockfin, are you, sir? Are you on the... Yeah. Death of a planet does take a while. I mean, I don't know, Osama. I'm not really sure what to tell you, brother. It could be a glitch. Are you on a browser or are you on the app? Because I feel like the app. Yeah. Well, I have my account is. I have an account on Rumble, and it's all set up. I actually set up the show today because I thought I was going to be able to stream it, but I went to go. I went to go stream or set up the stream on StreamYard, and they were like, "No, you can't do it." Yeah, I'll just say this: I've had Guy on the show more than a few times, but I probably won't do it again. because it carries far more problems than it's worth. Um, you know, worm orange green. I don't know what that means. Chris Deno, you've been watching me for a long time before I changed my channel to Black Bear. Oh, that is a long time. Because it's been Black Bear for word Gigabane. Yeah, Gigabane's been here for a long time. There's been people watching the show for a long time. Osama has been here since, I don't know, day 2. I started the show in 2017. And I forget the exact day, but I want to say it was probably like February or so, 2017. And I think Osama kicked into the chat on like the second day of my show when I had like 10 viewers, 10 people watching, or less than 10 people watching. Osama was there. Osama's been here since the very, very beginning. You refreshed it. There you go. Yeah. Nothing like a little refresh to fix things. Always helpful. Yeah, so if you're watching on Twitter, you know the deal. Retweet, like, stuff like that, comment, give me, say hi, things of that nature. I don't know. You know what to do. Cool. All right, you guys want to talk about some news? I don't know why I feel compelled to say this, but guys, just be patient with me. People message me. This is not about anything in particular, but I just want to say, like, people message me, kind of all the time, either emails or Facebook or Twitter, or like I try to respond, and I have very limited time outside of the time that I do the show to like manage the channel and stuff, and that's just the reality of my life, because I have a kid, I have like a music career, I have like 2 other jobs I'm doing. I have a whole bunch of things that I'm doing that I have to manage, and so just, if you could, just be patient. Also, I cannot talk to everybody in every single person in the chat. I've had people get upset at me because I'm not reading their comments in the chat, and just please be patient, or just give me a little bit of room. I can't possibly read everybody's chat, and anyways, it's all good. I mean, I expect, we're on the internet, by gum. I expect some rudeness. And if I'm ever rude, I hope that you give me the same, breadth of understanding. Anyways. It's all good. Anyways. I'm just saying, I try to respond to people. I try to answer comments, and or look at comments, or talk to people. I just I have a finite amount of time and eyeballs and bandwidth in my day, and I do my best. But we're all here now together, so this is the best time to be here, the best time to talk to me, the best time to have an interaction. It's right here, right now. Got it? All right. Yeah, surely. I hope, and that's what I, do this channel for, so that it is a place that everybody can come together and chat. Yeah, no? Anyways. That's what we're here for. And hope, You don't all have to agree all the time. Jesus, that would be really boring. That would be really boring if we all agreed all the time on everything. What would we fight about? For crying out loud. Here's an interesting post from Steven Donziger. And this is concerning, but this is an ongoing situation. This is something that we have covered a bunch of times. A whole bunch of times. The idea that you're slowly losing your right to protest. You're slowly losing your right to speak. You're slowly losing your right to tell the truth, or whatever your truth might be. That's freedom of speech, right? Pineapple on pizza is definitely a fighting topic, for sure. Well, now, will you go anchovy? You think John Glad boring is good? Yeah. Pineapple and bacon. My God. Well, I don't know. Creative experiments. I don't know that industries are trying to, yeah, kill us off for profit. Well, yeah, okay. I thought I was going to actually try to retort, but no, actually, I agree. Bijou. Anchovy scorpion pepper pizza. Ooh, I want some of that. I do. Oh no, you've gone a bridge too far, John. Raisin is a bridge too far on pizza, but if that's how you like your pizza, bon appetit. Yeah, I saw that. Obsolete. Tom Cotton wants protesters to be assaulted. I've heard people say that in other places too. Wasn't it Florida that passed a law that said that somebody could drive their car into protesters if they felt like it, if they feel like they just weren't getting to work fast enough, or they were, I don't know, any reason at all, something like that. Anyways. Dang, Osama, I want one of those. Actually, I want a Hellboy. Anyways, breaking from Steven Donziger. Our Supreme Court just smashed the rights to mass protest in 3 states by refusing to review an extremist decision from a lower court. If one person in a peaceful protest commits an illegal act, the protest organizers will face catastrophic liability. Outrageous attempt by the fossil fuel industry and our courts to stop protests before it starts. Somebody replied, prepare for agent provocateurs to ruin every effective public protest. I mean, well, come on. That's kind of what they do. that's kind of what they've been doing. That's not a he's like, prepare. I'm like, dude, prepare was like 50 years ago. You ever heard of COINTELPRO? I mean, come on now. I found that comment to be somewhat funny. The word agent provocateur, or the phrase, is kind of old, right? It's been around for a long time. The concept is not a new one, and that's what they do. They ruin protests. They create things. Some people might call them the old FFs, They create things in order to, make people go, "Oh my God, no, we got to do something." It's called manufacturing consent, and so that's one way to do it. But anyways, the Supreme Court. Let's look at this article. The Supreme Court effectively abolishes the right to mass protest in 3 U.S. states. It is no longer safe to organize a protest in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Texas. Oh, maybe this is what somebody, people on, I don't know what it is about Facebook, but people like to do these, maybe it's a tactic to get people to look at your post or comment or go like, "What are you talking about?" and interact. They'll put a post. Well, they'll say something, but like be really vague and not really describe the actual thing they're talking about. Somebody put a post on Facebook like, "Well, I guess it's illegal to for to say anything in Texas, or it's illegal to maybe I don't think they said protest, but something along those lines." I guess free speech is dead in Texas, and that's all they said, and everybody was like, "What are you talking about?" Or did you have something specific in mind you wanted to refer to? You're just saying this, just this vague statement. I guess it's effective, right? Anyways, the Supreme Court announced on Monday that it will not hear McKesson versus Doe. The decision not to hear McKesson leaves in place a lower court decision that effectively eliminated the right to organize a mass protest in the states of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. Under that lower court decision, a protest organizer faces potentially ruinous financial consequences if a single attendee at a mass protest commits an illegal act. It is possible that this outcome will be temporary. The court did not embrace the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit's decision attacking the First Amendment right to protest. But it did not reverse it either. That means, at least for now, the Fifth Court's decision is the law in much of the American South. For the past several years, the Fifth Court Circuit has engaged in a crusade against DeRay McKesson, a prominent figure within the Black Lives Matter movement who organized a protest near a Baton Rouge police station in 2016. DeRay McKesson's been around for a while. The facts of the McKesson case are unfortunately quite tragic. McKesson helped organize the Baton Rouge protests following the fatal shooting of Alton Sterling. During that protest, an unknown individual threw a rock or similar object at a police officer. The plaintiff in the McKesson case, who was identified only as Officer John Doe. Sadly, the officer was struck in the face and, according to one court, suffered injuries to his teeth, jaw, brain, and head. Everyone agrees that this rock was not thrown by McKesson, however, and the Supreme Court held in NAACP versus Claiborne Hardware that protest leaders cannot be held liable for violent actions of a protest participant, absent unusual circumstances that are not present in the McKesson case, such as if McKesson had authorized, directed, or ratified the decision to throw the rock. Indeed, as Justice Sonia Sotomayor pointed out in a brief opinion accompanying the court's decision not to hear McKesson, the court recently reaffirmed the strong First Amendment protections enjoyed by people like McKesson in Counterman versus Colorado. That decision held that the First Amendment precludes punishment for inciting violent action unless the speaker's words were intended, not just likely, to produce imminent disorder. Wonder where else that might actually come into play. The reason Claiborne protects protest organizers should be obvious. No one who organizes a mass event attended by thousands of people can possibly control the actions of all those attendees, regardless of whether the event is a political protest, a music concert, or the Super Bowl. So, if protest organizers can be sanctioned for the illegal action of any protest attendee, no one in their right mind would ever organize a political protest again. Indeed, as for Fifth Circuit Judge Don Willett, who dissented from his court's McKesson decision, warned in one of his dissents, his court's decision would make protest organizers liable for the unlawful acts of counter-protesters and agitators. So under the Fifth Circuit's rule, a Ku Klux Klansman could sabotage the Black Lives Matter movement simply by showing up at its protests and throwing stones. Fifth Circuit's McKesson decision is obviously wrong. Like McKesson, Claiborne involved a racial justice protest that included some violent participants. In the mid-1960s, the NAACP launched a boycott of white merchants in Claiborne County, Mississippi. At least according to the state Supreme Court, some participants in this boycott engaged in acts of physical force and violence against the persons and property of certain customers and prospective customers of these white businesses. Indeed, one of the organizers of this boycott did far more to encourage violence than McKesson is accused of in his case. Charles Evers, you all know that name, a local NAACP leader, allegedly said in a speech to boycott supporters that if we catch any of you going in any of them racist stores, we're going to break your damn neck. But the Supreme Court held that this emotionally charged rhetoric did not transcend the bounds of protected speech. It ruled that courts must use extreme care before imposing liability on a political figure of any kind, and held that a protest leader may only be held liable for a protest participant's actions in very limited circumstances. Anyways, the Fifth Circuit concluded in a 2019 opinion that Officer Doe has not pled facts that would allow a jury to conclude that McKesson colluded with the unknown assailant to attack Officer Doe, knew of the attack and ratified it, or agreed with any other named person that attacking the police was one of the goals of the demonstration. So that should have been the end of the case. Instead, in its most recent opinion in this case, the Fifth Circuit concluded that Claiborne's three separate theories that might justify holding a protest leader liable are a non-exhaustive list, and that the MAGA-infused court is allowed to create new exceptions to the First Amendment. Wow. It then ruled that the First Amendment does not apply where a defendant creates unreasonably dangerous conditions, and where his creation of those conditions causes a plaintiff to sustain injuries. Wow, okay. Well, it seems like these civil rights are on from, coming under attack from all sides, is what I'm trying to say. I actually agree with that, Obsolete. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. It's a trap. It's a respectability trap in a way, right? It's created a trap. I actually I dislike that trend, the trend towards. Anyways. What did I hear? I was listening to somebody today say something along the lines of being empathetic has created, I like empathy, and I like compassion and, conscious raising. But this person I was listening to said, something along the lines of being too empathetic has created situations where we have allowed monstrous activities, right? In the name of being, it's okay, like it's all right. And I'm not paraphrasing correctly, but I think that's true. Absolutely, Gene. Free speech can't be responsible for violence. It has nothing to do with what is happening around free speech. Exactly. Free speech is just that, speech. Violence is just that, violence. But people have different opinions on, how to protest or how it is that you should organize yourself or conduct yourself in the world. And that's, people have differences of opinion. That's cool. That's all right. Yeah. Speaking of free speech, I mean, we're heading, in so many ways, into very dark times because there's an all-out assault on free speech and freedom of thought, and it is coming from all sides. By the way, it's not just the bastion of the right wingers or the GOPers. It's not just them. They are doing it. Don't get me wrong. Yes, they are doing it, but it's coming from both sides. Why? We've already talked about this ad nauseum, but both sides are interested in the same thing, which is control. Anyways, this is a very interesting article, though. But I want to finish up and move on to something else before I run out of my time. Anyways, what exactly were the unreasonable conditions created by the McKesson-led protest in Baton Rouge? The Fifth Circuit faulted McKesson for organizing the protest to begin in front of the police station, obstructing access to the building, for failing to dissuade protesters who allegedly stole water bottles from a grocery store, and for leading the assembled protest onto a public highway in violation of Louisiana criminal law. Wow, it's against the law to protest on a public highway? Amazing. Where else are you supposed to protest? In the duly dubbed, duly erected protest zone. Needless to say, the idea that the First Amendment recedes the moment a mass protest violates a traffic law is quite novel. It is impossible to reconcile with pretty much the entire history of mass civil rights protests in the United States. Oh, yeah. Most protests happen on roads. So that the fact that you can't lead a protest on a public highway is that in and of itself seems to me to shut down the whole idea of protesting, period, because oh, anyway, so I was thinking, what was I thinking? I do want to get to this other story or two, or a couple other things. Oh, this is what I was thinking. Earlier, there is an assault on people's freedoms of speech and all that kind of stuff, and on anonymity, right? I think that's what it was. I was listening to somebody talking about, CBDCs and algorithms and platforms, slowly but surely getting more and more censorious. And what I guess Jason Burmis, if anybody's familiar with him, calls track, trace, and database. Anyways, but what there is a certain amount of anonymity required in order to do illegal things, right? So the more you and I know I'm this is a very broad stroke here, but the more they try to, I guess verify everybody or verify all the transactions, like I think that there's a double bind in that, right? There's a double bind in because a lot of criminal activity, and we're talking about the criminal activity of the people in power, right? Banks and money launderers and criminals, moving money around and Cayman Islands or Swiss accounts, right? It requires a certain level of anonymity, right? Bitcoin transactions, which are not really anonymous, but but other kinds of, there's some you can make. They're trying to, outlaw anonymity on some level in order to control what everybody's doing. But there is some blowback in that. Just like just like over the last few years, when there was in COVID times and after COVID times, there was an effort to, control people and what they were doing. There was an effort to ramp up that control, but that control actually had a lot. There was a lot of blowback involved. So, it wasn't so easy for them to really do all these things without people having the wherewithal and the ability to point out what they were doing, right? So in this age of the internet and people being able to point out what is going on, right? It was harder. They were trying to kind of do things that were skirting the law as far as constitutionally allowable things, right? And it allow for more pushback. So I know this is kind of vague what I'm saying, and I'm sorry for that. But what I'm saying is, the more they try to institute these, the verifications and the controls over people's, money or what they're doing or online, and so, the more people are going to seek things outside of that, and the more it's going to be, the people that are doing the criminal activities, the elites, the people that are in charge, actually rely on anonymity to do their dirty business, right? So they require some anonymity too, right? They don't want to have all of their actions brought to the light, right? Because, do you know what I'm saying? Does what I'm saying make any sense? Anyways, I don't think that I actually explained what I was thinking very well at all, but I just think I think the blowback, the unintended consequences, and I talked about that I don't know, 2 years ago. I was talking a lot about unintended consequences of right, and bringing about all this technology and technological, the ability to track, trace, and database everybody, I think it has very large limitations. And anyways, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it as well as they'd like to. But I don't know. They're trying in China, I guess. China's showing everybody how it's done. Anyways, well, so this is bad news though but the ability to protest has been in the crosshairs, right? It's been in the crosshairs. What's up, Rockfin people? I'm checking in on Rockfin. Rockfin people, how are you? Sorry, I did not mean to. I cannot see the Rockfin chats in my StreamYard, so it makes it a little hard to see all the chats. Let's see. So, Osama, I just checked. I tried that link and it didn't open. Why? Anyway, so the article, maybe this is the article you were trying to. No, it's a different article. I don't know if they're going to ban Bitcoin, Timothy, because I mean now they have ETFs. Now it's a publicly traded commodity on the stock, right? They just allowed for that, so I think it's actually gaining more acceptance. It's all the other coins that they're going to ban, right? It's the little coins, maybe. I don't know. But again, people will, the ability to do all this stuff, technology and whatnot, is allowing for people to create new ways to get outside of the control mechanisms, right? And will they ever render them inoperable? I don't know. We're trying again, Osama? All right. That's interesting. So, is this the same article? Or is this in conjunction with this other Guardian article? World faces deathly silence of nature. I mean, I had this. Okay, we'll pull this up. Oh, it's 11:45, which is my time right now to let you guys know that I appreciate you all hanging out with me, and if you appreciate the show, and like the show being here, consider supporting the show. There are many ways to do that. They're all in the description box. I'll throw some links on Twitter, but PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, all that kind of good stuff. So many of you already support the show, and I appreciate you. But if you like what I'm doing, throw a couple pennies my way. All right. World faces deathly silence of nature as wildlife disappears, warn experts. Loss of intensity and diversity of noises in ecosystem reflects an alarming decline in healthy biodiversity, say sound ecologists. Word. All right. Well, thanks, Gigabane. No, Gene, you're thinking about bitcoins, which is different from bitcoins. I'm gonna make something called Bitcorn. I don't know what that's gonna. I don't know what it's gonna be yet. Different from Bitcoin. It actually exists in the real world. It's gonna be a real world coinage. So I can't give you bitcoins. I can give you Bitcorn. So, let's see. All right. Sounds of the natural world are rapidly falling silent and will become acoustic fossils without urgent action to halt environmental destruction, international experts have warned. As technology develops, sound has become an increasingly important way of measuring the health and biodiversity of ecosystems. Our forests, soils, and oceans all produce their own acoustic signatures. Scientists who use ecoacoustics to measure habitats and species say that quiet is falling across thousands of habitats as the planet witnesses extraordinary losses in the density and variety of species. Well, yeah. Disappearing or losing volume along with them are many familiar sounds: the morning calls of birds, rustle of mammals through undergrowth, and summer hum of insects. Have you guys experienced this? Have any of you experienced it? I have experienced exactly this. Have any of you experienced any of this? A silence. Osama, I see you. Osama and William hanging out with me, and a few other people who aren't chatting on Rockfin. Thank you for hanging out. You guys are cool. Guys are in the cool club. That's the Rockfin club. Super cool club. Hey, they don't have any ads and stuff on Rockfin. That's cool. I guess that's what I kind of dig about Rockfin. I listen to a lot of content on Rockfin. And they don't have ads, which is great. YouTube is just annoying sometimes with the ads. Gigabane says UK insects are diminished but still plenty. John says birds and worms are still plentiful near me. I don't know. So yes, the pollinators are decreasing quickly everywhere. What I noticed, my personal experience of this is, and I think I told you guys this last summer, there was an absence of crickets. And crickets are kind of a thing here. They're kind of all year long here. Excuse me. I know things are very different here. There are some animals, some insects that have disappeared. There's no more sow bugs or pill bugs, as some people call them. I rarely see them anymore. I have much fewer bees and more flies. We don't have June bugs anymore. We used to get just a massive amount of June bugs in June. Now, if I see one or two June bugs, it's a momentous occasion. When we used to have them, they used to be so many of them. They were just all covering our backdoor screen. They would just be like glommed on. There would be hundreds of them. We don't have any. Now we don't have any. So that's within the last 6 years where I live. So within 6 years of massive changes. Now we have ants. This is a weird one too. Ants. I have ants in my kitchen all year long. It used to be ants were a very seasonal thing. Would never come out in the cold. When it got hot, yeah, they'd get out there, they'd get moving. They'd be like, "Come on, we got to do ant things. It's warm." Now I have ants all year round, which is weird. I've never seen that. Now it's all year round. Anyways, that's different. But what I noticed last summer, very interesting, was that so we have crickets. Crickets are a thing. Crickets are, you can kind of hear them almost all year round here, or at least 8 to 10 months out of the year. And there were no crickets at all the way through, like all summer until almost August. I didn't hear any crickets here where I lived, and I was like, this is too weird. It is deathly silent. I should be hearing crickets. It's summertime. Where are the crickets at? And as I would walk around my neighborhood, I noticed that, a lot of the houses here, people are using indigenous plants for their yards, tearing up their lawns and doing more, natural landscapes. The houses that had a lot of indigenous plants had crickets. I would walk by and I'd hear this big cricket chorus. Oh, there they are. And I'd walk back around to the block to my house, nothing. And so that was frightening to me. Also, a lot less birds. We used to have so many birds, and they were, again, all spring, in the summer. You could hear them. They'd be a loud chorus of birds every single morning. And now they're kind of out right now because it's, early spring and it's been somewhat cool. But in the last few years, they've really gone way down. The amount of birds, the bird song, which used to be like all morning long, and there'd just be like crowds of birds all over the place. Now it's dwindled down to a few moments in the day when you might hear a couple birds. So I have experienced the silence of nature, or the impending or creeping silence of nature, in my own life, my own experience, and it is frightening. It is extremely frightening. Anyways, let's keep going on this. As technology develops, sound has become an increasingly important way of measuring the health and biodiversity of ecosystems. Our forests, soils, and oceans all produce their own acoustic signatures. Scientists who use ecoacoustics to measure habitats and species say that quiet is falling across thousands of habitats as the planet witnesses extraordinary losses in the density and variety of species. Disappearing or losing volume along with them are many familiar sounds: the morning calls of birds, rustle of mammals through the undergrowth, and summer hum of insects. Today, tuning into some ecosystems reveals a deathly silence, said Professor Steve Simpson from the University of Bristol. It is that race against time. We've only just discovered that they make such sounds, and yet we hear the sound disappearing. The changes are profound, and they are happening everywhere, said U.S. soundscape recordist Bernie Krause, who has taken more than 5,000 hours of recordings from 7 continents over the past 55 years. He estimates that 70% of his archive is from habitats that no longer exist. Professor Brian Pijanowski from Purdue University in the U.S. has been listening to natural sounds for 40 years and taken recordings from virtually all of the world's main types of ecosystems. He said, "The sounds of the past that have been recorded and saved represent the sounds of species that might no longer be here." So that's all we've got. The recordings that many of us have are of places that no longer exist, and we don't even know what those species are. In that sense, they are already acoustic fossils. Numerous studies are now documenting how natural soundscapes are changing, being disrupted, and falling silent. A 2022 study in the journal Nature of 200,000 sites across North America and Europe found pervasive loss of acoustic diversity and intensity of soundscapes across both continents over the past 25 years, driven by changes in species richness and abundance. The authors added, one of the fundamental pathways through which humans engage with nature is in chronic decline, with potentially widespread implications for human health and well-being. The shift in ecosystem sound is happening in the air, the forests, the soil, and even underwater. During the Cold War, the U.S. Navy used underwater surveillance systems to track Soviet submarines, and they found they struggled to do so near coral reefs due to all the sounds reefs produced. It wasn't until 1990 that civilian scientists could listen to this classified data. Whenever we went to a healthy reef, it blew our minds, the cacophony of sounds we heard, said Simpson, who has been monitoring coral reefs using hydrophones for more than 20 years. A healthy reef was a carnival of sound. At the outset of his research, noise pollution from motorboats was his main concern, but 2015 and 2016 brought significant bleaching events, which resulted in 80% mortality of corals. They cooked the reef, he said. More than half of the world's coral reef cover has now been lost since 1950. If global heating reaches 2C, more than 99% of coral reefs are expected to start dying. The result of these bleaching events is a deathly silence, said Simpson. We swam around those reefs crying into our masks. These sounds and silences speak back to us like a mirror, said Hildegard Westerkamp, a Canadian sound ecologist who has been recording soundscapes for half a century, during which time wildlife populations have experienced average declines of almost 70%. She started working on the World Soundscape Project in 1973 with the intention of documenting disappearing ecosystems. We propose to start to listen to the soundscape, to everything, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, how uncomfortable the message. She said the act of listening itself can both be comforting and highly unsettling, but most importantly, it tends to connect us to the reality of what we are facing. Sound data is now being used alongside visual data as a way to monitor conservation efforts and ecosystem health. More sophisticated and cheaper recording equipment, as well as increasing concerns about environmental destruction, are driving the boom in ecoacoustic monitoring. As the sophistication of microphones has increased, scientists are using them to monitor life the way that would not usually be audible to human ears. Marcus Mader, an acoustic ecologist and sound artist from Switzerland, has been investigating the noises trees make under stress, pushing a microphone into the bark of a tree to listen to the living tissue. Stress sounds like pulses come from within the cavity, he said. When he first pushed a microphone into the soil of a mountain meadow, he discovered it was also alive with noise, a completely new kingdom of sounds. Intensively managed agricultural land, often doused with pesticides, sounds very different, Mader said. The soil becomes quiet. For many researchers, disappearing landscapes and soundscapes are a source of grief as well as of scientific interest. It's a sad thing to be doing, but it's also helping me to tell a story about the beauty of nature, said Pichanowski. As a scientist, I have trouble explaining what biodiversity is, but if I play a recording and say what I'm talking about, these are the voices of this place. We can either work to preserve it or not. Sound is the most powerful trigger of emotions for humans. Acoustic memories are very strong too. I'm thinking about it as a scientist, but it's hard not to be emotional. All right, and a lot of people obviously report, a lack of birds, insects, certain types of flora and fauna wherever they are. I've described to you the many ways that I see things changing, and things have changed quite radically, very radically in about 5 years. I can see it with my own eyes. So it's not something that I'm like reading an article about and going, yeah, I agree with that. Or somebody's telling me, showing me a graph on Twitter, and yes, I agree. No, I'm actually I'm seeing the changes in my own, immediate ecosystem. All right. Well, guys, we have reached about the end of our time here together. Thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. And thank you for the conversation. And I will see you guys at the regular time tomorrow of 11 a.m. Pacific. And until next time, peace.